Welcome to another episode of On Point with Nimna. If you have watched our previous episode, you might have seen that we have been continuously discussing the pressing issues related to human rights and the related social responsibility. So as we are getting closer to the October 1st World Children's Day, we are reminded of the importance of protection of children. So to discuss in that same line of thought, today we have with us Attorney at Law, Ms. Milani Salpitikorala, the founder and the senior legal consultant of Child Protection Force. We are grateful to have you here today for our discussion. So now to begin with, if I may ask you, what inspired you to create this Child Protection Force?
Thank you, Nimna. So very humble to be here, so thank you for the invitation. My inspiration started with my first boss. 2 weeks before my father, single parent, when my mom died when I was very small, he was a lawyer. I was always in and out of his office. 2 weeks before he passed, he met his friend and told her, I'm not going to live long, take care of my smallest one, which is myself. 2 weeks after he died, I went to her chamber for the first time. My first boss, Justice Milani Salpitikorala, who was a passionate, ardent child rights activist. So that's where the inspiration came. With a lot of training, a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and so much of guidance. So that is where the inspiration started. She introduced me to a gentleman named 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪, who was my guru, who was a then NCPA deputy chairman. He and I started a project at magistrate court. We took out some of the cases to see why they're taking so long. So he taught me along the way, and that is how finally in 2017 Child Protection Force was formed.
Right. So in the introduction you mentioned that some of these cases takes too long. Maybe not some, actually maybe all of the cases most of the cases takes a long period of time for the litigation process. So this is one problem. Also, what are the other pressing issues that you see related to child protection?
So one of the biggest things that we are trying to work on right now is secondary victimization of children. So once a child is reported, so something happens, a crime, and it is reported, the process from there. So we have to stop the victimization there, because it is a child who is already a victim now. But from the police station to the court to the hospital and back and forth, there is a lot of secondary victimization that happens that way. One of the biggest challenges is that a lot of state service is used to first thing they would do is to suspect the victim, right? Is she lying? Is he lying? Okay, because also officers are worried about fundamental rights cases. So there are a lot of things that are happening inside once a case is reported for the victim to get more and more victimized. So that secondary victimization happens through that insensitivity of state officers, insensitivity within the justice system. Once you go to court, you have to repeat your story in front of 200 other people. If someone will make a request to, call it private, yes, that can be done. But a lot of people don't. So there are children who are repeating their stories of what happened to them over and over and over again in front of a lot of people. So that is one. Then secondary victimization happens because of the delays, right? We know when court cases start. I mean, we have one case ongoing now for about 12 years. So these cases go on for 15 years, and within that 15 years, there is a lot of evidence that is lost. There are a lot of witnesses who no longer want to come to court. So then at the end of the case, the person will be acquitted because there is not enough evidence to convict him, right? So that is another challenge. Media itself is a huge challenge, because when one case is reported and somehow it goes to the media will go to town, have slow shots of the school, show the house from far away, right? And these children can never go back to that village. They can never go back to that school. So actually what we are currently doing is damage control. But what we should be doing is awareness and creating more awareness for children to be protected.
Right. So actually you mentioned now one case has happened for around 12 years. Now within these 12 years, the victim will be facing many other challenges, maybe socially, mentally, physically. So now if you take the mental aspect, now abuse related to physical aspect, but the mental trauma, the emotional trauma that the child is going through, what do you think is the role maybe from Child Protection Force, and also as a society, what is the role that we have there when it comes to traumatizing these victimized children along the way when it takes a long period of time for litigation? How do you see this problem?
So this is something that I have learned along the way since I started Child Protection Force, is that yes, the litigation is needed, yes, the legal aid is needed, but the trauma therapy, you know, I learned it maybe few years after I started Child Protection Force, right? The trauma and how that trauma needs to be treated. So this is a problem with the delaying of the court case and someone trying to heal, because I would have, so we had this lovely psychologist at CPF called 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗪, and 𝗙𝗢𝗪 did so well with the children. And one boy told me, so his case was, his case is a case, the 12 years now. He told me, listen, now you are asking me to have therapy with Miss 𝗙𝗢𝗪, which I am loving. And you can see his growth, he's working and he's trying to do something, he's trying to earn for mom and the brothers. And then he says, but then every 3 months you're asking me to come to court. And I'm reminded again and again and again of how this man raped me. So it is, so we are having a conflict here, because the case is going on for so long. We're trying to do the healing, but every 3 months or whenever the case is called, there is a trigger. And they go back deep down. So that is a problem. So I had another child who was prescribed, I'm not sure, I'm not a psychologist, but who was prescribed with a selective mutism, where she only talks to people that she is very comfortable with and she trusts. This was a child who was beaten up since she was very small, like severe physical beatings at home for nothing sometimes. She was 14 when I took her to complaint. So there were clear evidence, there was CCTV footage, everything was there. So when you look at it, you can see. But I had an officer tell this child, now she's not talking, but she's willing to write the entire statement down, which is also fine. You can do that. But this officer is telling the child in uniform, I explained to her, this is a situation, here are the videos, here is everything, this is a prescription, here she goes for medicals. And the officer kept on saying, if you don't talk, how do I know whether you're lying or not? Talk to me. And she was saying things like, talk to me, darling. But saying, talk to me. So pressurizing the child to talk to her when she was streaming tears down. So I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, you'll have to stop now, we'll come on another day. But we do then interventions with, okay, let's meet the OIC and explain the situation and try and try and try. But that's a lot of physical human resources from people like us. And the state can't afford these resources. So right now, I think Sri Lanka has a brain drain. We have lost a lot of psychologists who have gone abroad. Every psychologist has gone abroad. We have a few who are working here in Sri Lanka. And I refer the name psychologist because a lot of children can recover or can walk towards a path of recovery with psychology, therapeutic care. But most of the children who I have seen who are under medication never seem to come out of it. And some of them who have got addicted to that medication now. So there is a difference, and our system will say, okay, crime, bam, hospital. So once you go into the hospital, it's definitely psychiatric care. And there are no clinical psychologists within our hospitals, like there are not many. So there is a problem. I think more than lawyers and police officers, Sri Lanka needs more mental health workers, qualified ones, because also sometimes with family disputes, child custody matters, the court-appointed counselors also tend to take, also maybe not enough experience, maybe not enough education, maybe not enough resources put on them, but just that there seem to be judgments. So there's a lot of issues where in an extreme violent situation, if the other party will come and say this lady has a boyfriend, she may not get an order, a protection order, just for the reason that she may have a boyfriend. So various things like that, that the entire mindset needs to change a little bit when it comes to women and children and violence. But you are right, we need a lot of mental health assistance for victims of crime.
Right. Now, if I heard it correct, in the first case, the victim was a boy, right?
Correct.
A boy who has got raped.
Correct.
So, in that case, now we see, and in the second case, you mentioned that it was a 14-year-old. So, we see that there is a huge diversity, boys, girls,
Absolutely.
any age group. So, what can you say about this diversity, and what do you think are the main reasons for it? Now, according to statistics, is there a certain age that is more victimized, or is it like males or females? Are there any statistical data like that, or else in general, how is the pattern you see in that?
Yeah, I don't want to quote statistics to you, but you can find, I mean, the closest statistics I suppose you can find is within the police website and the NCPA websites, but I don't know whether they are also interconnected, whether both have the same, or I'm not really, I can't give you information on statistics, but there are a lot of cases of boys being sexually abused, sexually harassed, raped. Only thing is, rape doesn't define anal rape in Sri Lanka. So currently, so this is a big problem, and it has been going under grave sexual abuse. I know a lot of activists who are trying to change it, and it has to be part of the law because there are a large amount of boys who come under this crimes against children. And I wouldn't say there is a age disparity or anything, but I would say that ages of like from 8 to 16, something along that way, we see a lot of the sexual abuse. I also think it's because it is when a child's natural bodily hormones start activating themselves, children get curious, right? And when there is no sexual and reproductive health rights, child protection, body safety rights taught to you as a child, right? This is my body, nobody is allowed to touch it, right? Nobody is allowed to show me things like this, various things. And when it's not inculcated them since they were a child, a lot of my clients have said, I didn't know. We had a young girl who was raped by her biological father since she was 8 years old, multiple times, and it was taken on record. And this child, until she came, and again I'm going to quote 𝗙𝗢𝗪, because until she met 𝗙𝗙𝗪, she didn't realize that what happened to her is illegal. She thought it's because her father loved her, right? So that lack of knowledge. And there were so many good programs that came to Sri Lanka, like the Think Equal program and so on, that talks about all of these things, talks about various matters. And these things weren't brought up within the education system. So just, I suppose, introducing something just for the sake of, okay, getting sex education into the education system is not what is right. You need to evaluate it, see with the crimes what happens to children, and how you can teach children SRHR and child protection at the early stages.
Also, in one of the cases you mentioned that there are now, when it comes to this, the anal rape issues, we don't have proper law reforms, we don't have proper litigation process for that, we don't have the proper laws for that. So, maybe that is one example out of many. So, what are the reforms you think that needs to be done in the legal framework? Are there any suggestions for that, or is the, if I may question it this way, are the laws that are presently there enough for child protection, or do you suggest that there needs to be certain reforms, and how should it be done?
So, we have been told that there is a child rights judicial protection bill that has been sitting in Parliament for a very long time. I can't understand the ill motivation to get this into law. However, I can't comment on it because I have never read it. It's at a bill stage. But currently we have the only child protection law to protect the child specifically is the Children and Young Persons Ordinance. This ordinance is from 1973. Now this is the ordinance that they say has been reformed and is sitting in Parliament waiting for debate or waiting to be passed as law. So what England did was, when the whole human rights situations came, they made international law their law, and they brought in the Human Rights Act in 98, right? So one day I was doing a training for some probation officers, and these are ground level officers. They see everything we see. They see all the dirty work within, you know, about the crime scene, the child talking, the trauma, all that they see. One officer, quite old, he stood up and said, "Miss, don't you think if we make the UNCRC the law, you and I don't need to stand here?" Which is the truth. If the UNCRC was law or turned into a law that is compatible with Sri Lanka, that would completely protect the child. So have we made reforms enough for the protection of children? I don't think so. Personally, I think there is an ill will to work on child protection. I can't understand why, because the best investment you can do for a country is to protect your children. So if I believe, that's how we have been taught, that I believe that if you invest in child protection, a lot of other things are going to settle down, because the child comes from the smallest unit in society, the family unit, and that is how entire nation is built up. So I mean, I think that's what it should be. But are the current laws enough, you asked me? Yes, they are. The criminal laws, the victim protection laws are good laws. The Domestic Violence Act is a superb act. But we have a problem at implementation. Officers are scared, or officers are again ill motivated. They don't want to file these cases. They will tell a woman who is getting beaten up every day, go home tomorrow and make a nice cup of tea, he'll treat you better. But tomorrow she's dead. So it's that implementation. Currently, I think, yes, law reform is one entirely different side, and that has to be done. But if the current laws are being implemented until that happens, that might have a big effect also.
Right. So now, as you mentioned that laws need to be reformed, true, but those laws shouldn't be restricted to books only. It should be implemented, enforced practically in the society. So now, if you talk about the practicality of these implementation of laws, if we start with the smallest unit, family, we see that even the domestic based violence has affected the child's mentality and also physically. So these child abusing that is happening at home itself as domestic violence. If we talk about this, what is your idea on that, and how has that affected children?
So domestic violence is something that's around the world, okay, and it can happen in every family, in yours, in mine, everything. It starts with a small emotionally triggered argument, right? Of course, there are people who believe that physical violence is no way, and there will only be, say, arguments or whatever. And if there are children, people who are more aware of the children, and still, I mean, every couple would have an argument, which is very normal. But when the physical violence starts, that is when the problem starts, right? So a lot of physical violence and children being within those, we have noticed, I have personally noticed with my cases, I have children who are physically, sexually abused and all that, but the children who come out of this domestic violence environment, you see they are quite traumatized, right? Because these are the two people meant to protect you. And when you are physically killing each other, manipulating the children to use in your court cases and so on, which happens a lot. I mean, I see it within my circles, right? Of course, with our cases, where children are manipulated. Just because he's angry with her or she's angry with him and they're separated now, but still where children are used as the pawn to get at the other person. So I think it is every adult's responsibility to protect the children, not just my children, but all of the children. So domestic violence is a huge problem, and there are a lot of women, sometimes men, who don't come out because it's taboo. You know, I can't divorce because my family is going to be ashamed. I can't get separated from him because he's the only person I'm dependent on. I don't have any money. I have no place to go. My children are used to this good lifestyle. If I leave him, then we are not going to have their lifestyle anymore. So these are real challenges within these domestic violence environments, and I suppose it's a lot of awareness that needs to be created, and also for the person who is violating, again, support. There has to be some sort of problem, otherwise you wouldn't resort to physical violence, right? So once you resort to physical violence, whoever is getting abused need to stand up. There is a lot of support system, not just our organization. There are many civil society organizations who will help you out, who will rescue you, keep you in safe houses, get your protection orders. That doesn't mean that your marriage has stopped. It means that we have taken a break to try to settle things. We can get settlements in court, we can go to family counselors. So there's a lot of options that people can do instead of killing each other in front of your children. Because if there is one thing that I have seen that traumatizes children so much, is to see their parents fighting. So that is something that again needs a lot of awareness, Nimi, and programs like this can create a lot of awareness on domestic violence, family unit, all these things that you can do to, I suppose, reduce the trauma on your children. So
yes. So that actually reminds me of now when I invited you to this program, saying that this will be a special program related to the Children's Day, and your immediate response was, actually there shouldn't be a certain day to celebrate children, every day should be a Children's Day. So which clearly shows the seriousness of this mission and how important that is to the society. So with that, keeping that in mind, we will now be going for a short break. You're joining back with On Point, and today we have Attorney at Law Ms. Milani Salpitikorala to discuss with us about the child rights and the importance of child protection. So as we went to the break, saying about the Children's Day and your response to it, as it shouldn't be restricted for one day, but every day should be a Children's Day. I would like to get an elaboration on this from you.
yeah, so I mean, we see a lot of, when it's closer to Children's Day, we get hundreds of calls. Can you do interviews? Can you do articles? And so on. But I see this is a commercially motivated day. Okay, you would have various corporates having various events and, you know, handing over ice cream to children, having art exhibitions and so on. But is there any follow-up? Do you know what happened to the child who was raped by so many boys last year? Media went to town. So many corporates wanted to help. So there is a huge lack of understanding and, I suppose, I don't know, oblivious to the truth of what is actually happening on the ground. Every day there are, if you saw the statistics recently that were published, there is a huge amount of child crimes against children that happened between January and July 25, right? If I'm not mistaken, please don't quote me on this, I think it was about 5,000 odd cases, right? So why are we celebrating a highly commercialized, you'll get discounts in restaurants, you get gift cards from, you know, various places, it's highly commercialized. So why have a highly commercialized day when actually children, most of our children in this country are not happy, are unhappy. Children who have to see their mother being beaten up every day. Children who are neglected, right? Currently in one of my cases, mother is in hospital, father is in hospital, and the 3-year-old child was taken away by the uncle. Nobody up to date knows. It's been 2 months. Nobody knows where he is. And who are we to say let's celebrate Children's Day? When I in my heart know that so many children I represent are suffering. So I'd say for CPF, we never have a special Children's Day because we service children every day. And that is what I believe as a lawyer also. Our job is to serve our client and to be ethical and be honest, tell them what you can do for them, what you can't do for them, and represent them in the House of Justice with all your might. And that is what we are here to do. That is why we take this sacred oath to help the process of justice. And currently our justice system is doing the exact opposite. So victims are even more victimized and victimized. So I will never believe in a commercialized Children's Day when Children's Day has to be every day.
Truly, truly. So now when it comes to Children's Day, it's globally celebrated.
Yeah.
And even these child abuse cases and exploitations, all these also happens globally.
Yeah.
So now when you take these global cases along with Sri Lanka, in the Sri Lankan context, what are the reasons? Now, are there any reasons specifically for Sri Lanka for us to have these sort of child abuse cases, more and more exploitations, these child issues related to children? Are there any specific reasons for Sri Lanka to undergo that? While it is happening globally, what do you think are the pressing reasons to that to happen in Sri Lanka too?
So I wouldn't say Sri Lanka stand alone. So a lot of South Asian countries, in the global south, we seem to be having the same problems, very similar problems, right? I'm not saying that there is no crime. I mean, if you watch enough of these true crime, these videos, if you watch enough Netflix, you know that in the Western world also there is lot of crimes against children. There is a lot of it happening. I suppose even maybe more than us. But the difference is that they have a better system and this secondary victimization stops. Trials are done, I mean if the investigations are done, trials are done. Singapore has it done in 6 months. And Singapore was the one country that once wanted to be Sri Lanka. So I'm saying we don't need to go all the way up to the global north. But look at successful countries like Singapore, right? I know Thailand has a lot of child abuse cases, but Thailand also is doing a lot of operations. They're working with the FBI, their government is working with civil society. So we have been culturally known for governments not to work with civil society because there is a huge loggerhead between civil society and government. So government is also taking a step back. They don't want to work with civil society. But we have to, because there is a lot of the government's burden that civil society is taking on. A lot of organizations, I'm not only talking about myself, there is Sambal Foundation, there is Care Station, there are a lot of civil societies who are taking a huge burden, protecting these women. Otherwise, where do they go? I mean, we have cases sent to us by the police, by the hospitals. So we are supporting. So the only problem with other countries, simple examples I gave you, like Thailand and Singapore especially, is their partnerships with other people who can help the government are very strong. So that is one way that we can come out of this problem, to take the assistance from civil society, like organizations like us, so that is a huge support to the government. So so which is what we need to develop, and there is a whole crowd involved here. It's not just police or the doctors or the psychologists or the judges. There are a lot of people, and we call this a multidisciplinary team approach. And these are done in other countries. This is not rocket science. It's very easy where people coordinate together, they work together. So multidisciplinary team approach, working together with civil society, these are a lot of things that we can come across to assist this challenge within the country.
Now, you mentioned that there are many organizations, NGOs that are working in this process. So, talking about Child Protection Force, which was launched in a new location recently. What can you tell about the services provided specifically by the Child Protection Force, and about launching having the ceremony of launching it at a new location, and what are the services that you provide, and how can a normal citizen, a victimized person reach you? Can you give us an explanation on that?
Yeah, so we were in operation for a very long time, about 8 years, long time in my life, and started very small with a maybe 10 by 10 office, and slowly we had people who were helping us, and most of these people were also my friends, colleagues that I know. So we don't have huge foreign donors who come in and give a huge amount of money, but a lot of people who have seen the genuine work that CPF has been doing. But I, along the way, also have lost a lot because I've invested a lot in the organization. But that satisfaction that comes with a client who calls and says, "Milani, miss, you saved my life," right? Or a child who will call and say, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you tomorrow." That is something that money can't buy. Okay, and I have never been that way. So our service is what we call the Child Advocacy Center, and this is what is done in a lot of other countries that have successful child protection systems, right? So what happens here is, it is a one-stop house for a child, one-stop location. Currently, if you have to take a child to complain about something, you have to go and wait at the police station for hours and hours. You have to explain it to a few officers, then you have to make them write it down. Then there may be an inquiry, there may be not, and then you have to go to the hospital or maybe not, but you have to keep on repeating and repeating. So one thing that was done in other countries, that is currently being done, is the child comes to a place called a Child Advocacy Center. So the center is in partnership with their state police, with their child protection services, with their state attorneys, in our country the attorney generals. So there is partnership, collaboration with the Child Advocacy Center, with these state organizations who are involved in the system, right? So the child goes to this one place and makes a statement on record, like you and I are being recorded here, all our facial emotions are being recorded here. There is a person called a child and adolescent forensic interviewer. This person can be a police officer, can be a civil citizen, can be anyone, but is certified to speak to children. So grateful that I have that, a few of my staff have that. We are certified to have interviews with children. So we know what questions to ask, what questions not to ask, how not to traumatize them, right? And it's done in a small interview room, as you saw at our office, and it is recorded in the other room. So very similar what we are doing here right now. And there is an investigation officer in the other room, and this is recorded. So if he needs the interviewer to ask another question, he may do a signal and she may. So that setup we have right now. In Sri Lanka, it's available in Ragama, it's available in 𝗙𝗢𝗪, and it's available in the National Child Protection Authority. However, when a judge makes an order to get the video evidence, you have to contact, if it was at 𝗙𝗪𝗪 or NCPA or wherever, you have to go and tell them, or the police will call and say, "Come here, video evidence record." But there is a long waiting line. So the challenges are, the technical officer is not there, the equipment is broken, there is no translator, right? So various challenges. So there is at least sometimes my clients have been waiting for 2 years, 3 years just to give their evidence. So 2 years, 3 years, you can forget. You can maybe forget the color of the underwear, and that itself can get your case lost, right? So we have that service. We have therapy rooms, we have play therapy rooms, we have single therapy rooms. We have a service dog who is an emotional support dog, and so we have all this, and we have the lawyers also. We have the lawyers, we have the psychologists, we have that whole thing going that will make the child comfortable. And we have had children who have said, "I want to stay in your office the entire day, I don't want to go home," right? So with that, we are also inviting the state officers. I am, to be honest, like an unpaid therapist for some state officers who I have befriended along the way. I have officers calling me late at night saying, "Milani, this job is really taking a toll on my emotional health. So we just have chats on the phone, right? Nobody knows. There is a lot of officers who need emotional support, and we have opened our doors to them as well. Okay, any officer who needs to talk to a psychologist, needs to talk to a mental health assistant, please come in. So let's say you're doing an interview in our space and you're traumatized by what you've just heard. You can walk out of the interview room and you have a therapy room where there will be a professional to help you. So huge service, really small crowd. I mean, it's just 5 of us women doing this on the ground, a lot of work, but I think it is essential and it is needed. So thank you for giving me this opportunity as well.
So now talking about those services, there's another aspect of child abuse that we cannot forget, and that is with the advancement of the technology, now the online exploitations and also the neglect because now the parents are too much engaged with online work, maybe social media, and that itself makes them neglect their children, and maybe that will create the space for all the other problems that those children face, the lack of attention by the parents and the adults. So how do you see this problem and how can we overcome it actually?
So about overcoming it, I'm not sure, but one thing I can tell you is every child who has access to a device, also a perpetrator has access to that child. And the perpetrator doesn't have to live in Sri Lanka. The perpetrator can live in Timbuktu and get images of your child, right? It is extremely dangerous. Okay, so I mean, given that I am a parent as well, and it's a difficult situation. So I met this professor called Professor Sandra Cortesi, who does a lot of this AI-related, tech-related work with children. And she does the research with the children. Right, and she says taking the device away as a punishment is not recommended. Given that, I'm talking about adolescent children, older children, right? But I have seen parents who only the device and the food is eaten. And parents who want to be on their device, so a child has their own device. I've seen toddlers who can barely walking with their iPads with those nice little cases, right? So the damage that it does to the developing brain is massive. I mean, there's so much of content online that you can read and see what damage it makes on children. But what I have seen is younger children, age 8 to 10, 10, 11, again hormonal, curious, right? They're watching these things, and you know, you have those vloggers who put their makeup online, or I don't know, okay, these I'm very not tech savvy, but those kind of videos, right? So you have these 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are really excited by these videos, and they would hold up a phone and say, this is my first vlog, whatever, blah blah, and I would see comments on those that say, cute girl, how old are you? And these are fake profiles. When it's a fake profile, you know how to identify that that is probably some perpetrator somewhere. And there are stages of grooming. So it doesn't happen in the first time. It doesn't happen in the first time where the child will give the age and the, you know, but it's a prolonged thing. Online grooming is a prolonged process, right? They befriend the child. And all the better if the parents are negligent, because he has more attention of the child. They send you these online gifts, I suppose, stars, money, gift cards, vouchers are sent, or your phone is reloaded when you don't have credit, right? So apps like, I mean, there are a lot of apps, Snapchat, Instagram, I mean, these are a lot of things that we get on. But recently, I met with Meta people and they said that Instagram has got a new teen account, which is very much restricted, right? So various things that they can have, but again, a child having a device means that perpetrators have access to that child and they can be anywhere in the world, right? So Sri Lanka has set up a system called the NECMEC, which is a National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's a US based I think, platform, but any child sexual abuse material, anything that is suggestive of abusing children online can be reported to 𝗙𝗢𝗟 through the Women and Children's Bureau. There is a cyber tip line where then they will find the perpetrators and they will make the necessary arrests, because they work alongside with the, I suppose it was a FBI, I am not sure. So, one of those law enforcement in the US, they work together, find the perpetrator wherever the world they may be, they try to find them. Other than that, there is also something called take it down. Let's say it can be something you don't want to really report to the police, but you want to take your pictures down. So, 𝗙𝗢𝗟 has another option where you go to the take it down option and you can paste the link or the pictures and they take it down for you. So, there are a lot of resources, and I have met a lot of young children, maybe 18, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are very aware, and I have seen a lot of children with a plaster on their laptop front camera, right? So, young ones, young people. So, when I ask them, they say, "Miss, we are not sure who is watching us." So, very aware, very good, right? But these younger ones, the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, who want to have TikTok accounts, who want to have various social media platforms, Snapchat, right? So, these type of platforms where a lot of perpetrators, so other things are games, Roblox. If you notice on Google, there are so many people suing Roblox for perpetrators finding the children. So, what happens is, you know, these, when people play games, I am not very tech savvy, so you have these other people commenting on it and all that. So, Roblox is a game that perpetrators used to find children, and you don't have to do anything. Your profile picture can be your face, and that can be AI generated into something else. We know that there are children within schools in Sri Lanka who are now within WhatsApp. This is another thing that needs to go out, is young kids who are taking pictures of each other, and then you have these national, zonal swimming meets where kids will take pictures of girls in their swimsuits. They are ready for the swimming meet, and these pictures will be AI generated into nude images, and these will be shared. So, there was a PhD research done, I learned through my friend. One picture is sent to, let's say, a cricket team of a school. So, let's say there are 12 people in a team and there are 12 people in the group. But from that group, the reality is that it goes to 500 other groups, and the person who makes the money is in between, because child sexual abuse material, we call it now, we do not call it child pornography anymore, because children are unable to perform acts of pornography because they are children. So, we call it 𝗙𝗢𝗟. The 𝗙𝗢𝗟 production is a huge market, and there is a lot of money involved, right? So, when it goes to that 500 groups, can you imagine the number of people who are there to view these? And these are things I have seen in my own eyes. So, 𝗙𝗢𝗟 is a huge problem. So, children who are given devices, there are so much of parental controls. YouTube has parental controls, IG has parental controls. So, to have those things and to explain to children why, informed knowledge is very good. Why am I not giving you this device right now is because of this, right? You are still 12 years old. You can get a device when you are whatever years old, right? So, yes, cyber crimes against children is a huge problem, and I hope we have the resources to handle it, because currently I don't think we do. But I hope the state of Sri Lanka will invest money into child protection.
So, actually now coming on to that topic, that added so much of information to it. Now, when it comes to online, the problems caused by the online platforms, now you mentioned several issues and several organizations with it and several preventive measures. So, I think that topic itself can be made into another episode of this program. Yeah. And also to all our viewers, we will be coming up with a series of episodes where we discuss case by case, because actually now with Miss Milani, they have been working with lot of cases, as you mentioned, few of them, and there are a lot of things that the society can learn through those cases. So we will be very soon bringing a case by case episodes related to these child abuse issues and the related issues when it comes to child protection. So with that hope, thank you very much for enlightening us on these aspects today in our program. Thank you, Ms. Milani, for joining us today. And to all our viewers, till we meet with another important episode, stay informed, stay focused, stay on point.